Welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, and I look forward each and every week to bringing you amazing content that will provide you with a financial education, will support you on your financial journey, and most importantly, help you to find financial freedom. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, and today I have the honor of interviewing a good friend of mine, Pearl Chiarenza. Pearl is the owner and founder of Women's Successful Living, and I've spent the last few days at a women's retreat that she puts on every single year. It's called Soulful Self-Care, and it is women coming together to get grounded, to fill their cups, to maybe work through things that they may have going on in their lives. We get training, we have breakout sessions, and I wanted to interview Pearl today to just talk about what led her to doing the work that she does and how I've partnered with her through some of the things I do to offer breakout sessions at the retreats that she does. So Pearl, I'm excited to talk to you today. I'm so grateful to know you, and I appreciate you spending some time on the podcast with me.
I am so excited to be here today with you as well. And I'm honored to have you as part of our 8th annual retreat. I can't believe it's been 8 years now. And you being here at the financial piece is such a blessing because it's something that our ladies have been asking for quite a few years. I think really since year 2, but we've never found that synergy, the person that could relate to the women that are coming and attending. And you knocked it out of the park again this year, just as last year. So I'm excited to have you as a partner on the retreat as well.
Thank you. So my icebreaker question I ask everybody on my podcast is, if you could be any superhero, who would you be and why?
Ooh. She didn't give me a heads up on this one. Who would I be and why? Well, I think I'd have to say Superwoman, just because, I've got these amazing women who come to the retreat. And during COVID, I saw women showing up online, like freaked out because, oh my gosh, my kids are now home and I have to become a teacher. And I sent them to school to teach. I don't want to be a teacher. My partner, my spouse is home all day with me 24/7. And while I love them, I don't think I want to spend that many hours in a day with them. And then on top of that, they maybe still had to work their job or their business or just be that mom. And so I needed a Calgon take me away moment, but I wasn't allowed to leave. So we started this 30-day self-care challenge. And every day I do something for yourself, even like a 5-minute challenge or something. And every Sunday we'd get together. And at the end of 30 days, we're like, hey, we're going to keep doing something. Like, we can't stop now. And that's where we started what's called the Shiro League, which stands for being strong, happy, empowered, radiant, and original self. And so I feel like that's who that would be for me, because that's what I carry forward since COVID.
Yeah, I love that answer. It definitely fits you. And I always say every episode, the answer I get from every guest fits their personality and who I know them to be. And that's why I've kept it as my icebreaker question. Sometimes I have to change it up because I know some of my guests listen to my podcast, and so they know ahead of time. And I like to kind of surprise them, because I think it really starts the podcast off really kind of getting a feel for who you are authentically when I just throw that question at you. So I appreciate that. And it's definitely the way that I see you. I met Pearl probably about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Through a mutual friend of ours, Julie DeLuca Collins,
Yep.
who also happens to produce my podcast, and her husband, Dan, edits it. So shout out Julie and Dan.
Dan.
But I met Pearl through this. Julie said, you need to talk to Pearl. She has the most amazing program going. You would be a great guest on her podcast, which is the first project that we did together. And I also got to present on the Shiro, the Shiro call, the Shiro League with the women, and got to just kind of get a feel for what that was. And last year I came out here to the retreat and did a breakout session, some education on the importance of finance for women. And this year, I really focused on money mindset and then budgeting, the foundation, and taking that next step. But I think that's what you do through your whole organization, Women's Successful Living, but especially through the retreat, is you look for opportunities where you can help women build the foundation of, first of all, who they are, and then second of all, their businesses, their lives, their families, so that in every area they have a stable, steady foundation that they're growing from. And it's one of the things that I love most. And you've helped me to do that. And I mean, I think I got a little emotional last year at the retreat in a couple of the sessions, but this year I felt it, I think, at a different level. And it's fun because there are women that return every year, but there are new women too. And there's such an amazing dynamic to see that shift in people. And half the tears I cried was just over getting to sit and experience the stories of some of the women that come here. So, Pearl, can you give a little bit more background about just even who you are? Because I think it leads to the work you do, but then also why women successfully living, why help women build that foundation for you? What difference has that been to make it something that you wanted to pass on?
Yeah, so it started back in 2015. I had sat in a course for identity and destiny. At the time, I was just helping my clients with weight loss on a program. And I had a lot of clients be like, "Hey, will you talk to my friend? She doesn't need to lose weight, but you're such a great listener. You don't make me feel bad when I've not been 100% on program." And so I was like, "Okay." And then I was found myself doing many coffee dates. And then I was like, "Okay, I got to go do more." So I took this course. At the end of 6 weeks, we had to give our I am statement. And my friend across from me said, "All I still hear is your titles. I don't hear anything about Pearl." And I was kind of like, what the heck did I do for 6 weeks to sit in this course? And was I not listening to the instructor? Did I not do my homework that I thought I was doing? And so that year I decided I had to figure out who the heck I was. So I sent our oldest off to college, did some reconnecting with our youngest son, and then went on this journey to figure out who Pearl was. Growing up, I hated my name. I was called Pearl Harbor, Pearl Nap, Pearl, go take a nap, Pearl Bill, everything you could think of. I was short, so mini Pearl. So my name was not something I embraced. And so as I went on this journey, I was like, I got to figure out who I am. And I started realizing I wore so many titles because I was saying yes to so many people and I wasn't saying yes to myself. So I said, I've got to start saying no to others. So I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just said, I'll figure it out. And one day I was walking and this happened to be a rock on the ground. So I picked up the rock and I was like, okay, God, just tell me what to do with this. I put it in my pocket. So later that afternoon, I went to a network event and somebody asked me to do something and my hand just sort of braced my pocket. And I felt this rock. I was like, okay, this is a sign. I have to say no. So I was like, I can't do that. I don't remember what it was at the time. And it didn't hurt. I didn't I didn't get struck by lightning or anything. I felt a little bad. And I started realizing as time went on, I was such a people pleasing addict. You probably could ask me to organize your sock drawer and I would, but when we starting? And so I started stepping into saying no to others and yes to myself. And at the end of the day, if I had not said no to three things in a day, because I was moving the rock 3 times a day was my commitment, I had to either email or text somebody or call and tell them I couldn't do something. And so as I did that, that's really where the Shiro started to form. I found that saying no was easier and I became stronger in the confidence of saying no to others. And that led to me to being less stressed. So I became happier in my life. I didn't mind doing things as a last minute with my family. I didn't get stressed out. My kids asked me to make a grilled cheese sandwich. And then as that happened, I started becoming empowered to do things like speaking, starting my podcast, building on the retreats. I was already doing, like, I'd already done one retreat. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do more. And as that happened, I started walking in rooms and people noticed me more. I called it the radiant glow up. Like I was starting to had this glow about myself. And so that led to me to really start walking in originally what I was set out to do. I wanted to be a teacher growing up, never had the means to go off to school. So the coaching is where that really led to from that. And so in doing so, the pajama retreat started. I have to give a shout out to Stacy Shefflin with used to be a product called YBF Beauty. because she told me one time, you need to do a pajama retreat. I'm like, a pajama retreat? She's like, yeah, you just get a bunch of ladies together, no makeup. Cause she used to go on air with her hair up in curlers and no makeup on. I'm like, okay, let's do this. So we just had year 8. And basically it's, you show up as who you are. We hold no judgment. We want to meet you where you're at. And we want you to see that you're more than a title, that you're more than a mom, more than a professional career woman, more than the entrepreneur that maybe you are, that you are an individual that's on this earth, that you have a goal, you have dreams, and you deserve to start putting yourself first. Because as you know, Natalie, I've learned a couple of years ago that life can change in a heartbeat. And so you're not promised tomorrow. So what are you doing to live that dash, as it's called? What are you doing to show up for yourself? And that's why we do the retreats. I mean, it's been amazing. This 8th year has been so much fun to watch the women just start shining and start stepping into that shiro self, as I call it, like the glow up that they're doing this weekend and leaving with the confidence that they did not come with, and they're leaving to go home and pack up in their luggage as they leave tomorrow. It's been amazing to watch.
Yeah, it really has been amazing. And it's funny because so much can change in a matter of 4 or 5 days. A lot of the women come in maybe a little intimidated because they don't know what to expect, right? And so they're kind of quiet. And you get matched up in a room with at least one, if not maybe 2 or 3, depending on the setup of the house we're in, because we always move locations a bit every year. And so you get matched up with roommates that most of the time are people you don't know. Or if you've met them maybe through the Shiro League or something, you don't know them well.
Right.
And so you're put in this room and then you go through the classes or the workshops, and there are speakers that tell their stories, and they may be stories of trauma, they may be stories of job loss, of single parenthood, of difficult divorces, and then they tell you the rest of the story, which is overcoming what was hard, waking up on days they didn't know how they were going to be able to, building a life and a home, and just starting over after really difficult things. And then the workshops always build from there on who we are and what's important, and those foundational things like finances that give you opportunity. And that's one of the big things I talked about this year in my breakout session was money is a tool. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it's a tool to opportunities that can create happiness. So for you, if the goal is to travel and make memories with your family and your loved ones, it's a tool for you to be able to do that. And so just the idea of understanding what you have, where it's going, what your dreams and goals are, and how you can actually create space to save money, invest money, pay off debt, whatever it might be, by paying attention to the details through a budget. And I think that you can look that granular at each of these women, and that's what you're doing. There's different components of who they are, their personalities, their struggles, their triumphs, and you find a way to tap into who they really are inside, to bring out the best of them, to remind them of who they are. And then from there, like, you take the opportunity to build on that. What do you want to do? What's going to come next for you? What's important to you? And sometimes the ladies will leave 1 year with knowing there's a direction they need to go, but not the confidence of exactly what that is. But then they come into this next year showing some of the additional work they've done throughout the year, and they're ready to take those next steps. And so it's not a one and done. You're here for 5 days and life is great and you just run from there. But it's all based on what you've been through. Like you said, you had to learn how to say no. And I think for the most part, most of us, especially women, we want people to like us. We want to offer service to other people. But sometimes we get so deep trying to fill our cups through doing that and serving other people that our cup runs out and we forget to refill it. And that's what I think the work that you do is all about. You touched on briefly that a couple years ago, something happened for you that made you realize how short life is and what's really important. And well, the importance of that dash
Right.
between the year the date we're born and the date that we die, how important that little dash is, how important it is to make that dash as valuable as possible for each and every one of us. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about what that was and the impact that even had on taking your work to another level?
Yeah, absolutely. I thank you for asking too,
Of course.
because I want the listeners and even the women that came to the retreat to understand that life is precious. 2 years ago, on the early morning of July 25th, we had gotten a butt dial from our son, Matt, and we called back and he unfortunately, after we spoke to him, he said he was in an Uber and he made a bad choice. And he was actually in my car and he did a choice of drinking and driving. And he actually got in a single car accident by himself and he passed away instantly. And so we literally had talked to him 10 minutes before he passed. And it was traumatic. I don't wish it on my worst enemy to lose a child. They have titles for, you're a widower when you lose a spouse, and there's all these different titles, but there's really not a title for a parent that's lost a child. But Matt had seen me when I dropped him off to college that year start to really like figure out who I was. And 2 days before he passed, he was in our garage and he's like, "Hey Ma, can you pass me a bottle of water?" And I chucked the water to him and he's like, "Oh my God, not only did you figure out who you are, but you can throw something now," because I could never throw a football before. And I just kind of chuckled, but those are the last words that I truly had from him. I mean, that night we talked about Dal, he said, we did say we love each other, but I cherish those words because he and my son Nate both saw me try to struggle about identity. I had some trauma with my parents and such. And so when I finally stepped into who I truly was and learned to teach my kids and my husband that I have to put myself first and then I'm there for you, they started seeing it. And so, when he passed, I could have easily just sat, and I talked about that this week at the retreat. I could have just stayed in my house and hibernated and closed up my business and never did another retreat. But I wouldn't be honoring not only him, but myself. I wouldn't be honoring the work that I'd done to get to where I was. And, there's the day before and the day after. And then it was a choice. Do I live like I did before? Or do I just hibernate? And hibernating is not in me. I wouldn't be honoring his memory. And I think he'd probably whack me from heaven to say, get out of bed. And, that's what I did. And I today at the retreat, that's like this weekend, watching the women that came here this weekend and their journey. And one of my good friends, Lisa, was here, and she's that person I wish I never met, because I met her. She had lost her son because she came and sat with us at the funeral home. And to see, her growth this weekend, and the other women that are here, there's, I don't want to say names, but there's many other women that were here that had big breakthroughs. That's why I do this. It's important to live that dash. You never know. And if you're a parent, your kids are watching you. They're watching how you respond to things and react to stuff. And they need to learn from us. They need to learn that life is going to throw some curveballs. They're going to suck sometimes. They're going to be devastating. And it's a choice that we have to make to continue to live, because it's not we don't know what the plan is. And, for me, God's got a plan, and I got to just trust that his plan is what was there. And we were honored to raise Matt for 25 years. He's got an amazing younger brother, Nate, we're a 4-unit family, and we're still a 4-unit family. It's just different. And so, to continue to do with the work I do that for not only for me, but really to honor that memory, that he knows that I didn't just give up on life.
I love that. And look, I want to touch quickly. You guys have another huge event coming up in your family.
Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity and the privilege to have you share with me stories of Matt, and stories of the hardship that you and your husband and your son Nate went through after his passing, and kind of finding your footing again. Like you said, there's not a title for a parent who loses a child, and that's not how it's supposed to work.
Right.
As the parent, you're supposed to go first. And that was a big journey for your family. And you talk really openly about, for each of you, that healing process was different.
Yeah.
And but you took the time to recognize that. Not that you got it perfect right from the bat, but as time went along and maybe your vision cleared a little bit from things, you could see your husband better and realize he was grieving differently, and you could communicate with him in a way that he could understand your grief was different. And I think it's been a beautiful blessing to have you share that as a reminder to be grateful every day, to say I love you every chance you get. And you definitely pour that into the women here. But like I said, you guys have another big event.
Yeah.
And I want to honor your sweet son, Nate, who I haven't had the chance to meet yet, but I've heard so much about him. I feel like I know him. So I want to have you just share for a minute, like what's coming up for your family that's so exciting.
Yeah, so we're really excited. We're so proud. Nate's like me. He's that individual soul that just he's so independent. And he's also an old soul, but Nate's actually getting married on October 3rd. We have a wedding coming up. So we've got our family coming together and we're doing all the fun wedding stuff. And him and Amy are getting ready to set. They've already bought their house, and I think you'd be pretty proud of them too, because they're pretty financially, smart. It's interesting to watch the traits that your kids get. And he definitely picked some of that stuff up from his dad and money management and such. But yeah, so we're excited. October 3rd, we have family coming in from California, Las Vegas, upstate New York. And so we're going to have a good party. It's like 2 doors down from my house. So I'll be able to walk to the party. So really celebrate them and celebrate him and Amy. And then also we still call her our daughter in love. Matthew had a beautiful girlfriend that they probably would have got married too. So she's coming down with our little, we call her our granddaughter from her as well. And she's our adopted granddaughter. So she's coming down. So we're excited to get everybody back together because our unit is important. And one thing too that we made a commitment, I'm glad you said how we honored, is we made sure that we recognize we each grieve differently and how we do that. And so it's been fun watching Nate because him and Amy they're planning this wedding on their own. They've got some help from the parents, but the majority of it they're doing themselves, and they're doing a pretty good job at it. So we're really excited for that. Thank you for asking about that.
Oh, you're welcome. Congrats, Nate. Congrats, Nate and Amy. I'm really excited to hear all about the wedding. I know you're so excited for it. It's amazing that I sat here listening to you answer that question, and I thought to myself, there's a quote that I've heard a couple of times through some trainings and mentorship in my business. And it's something like, most people die, or most men maybe is how the quote goes, by the time they're 27. They just don't get buried until they're in their 70s.
Ooh, I haven't heard that before.
And that's not it perfectly. So, don't quote me. My quote is off, but that's the gist of what it's saying, is that we grow up, we go to school, we get the job, we start the business, whatever it is, and we're so lost in the day to day that we forget to truly live. We forget to continue growing and evolving. Like, so much growth happens. Like, think about a baby from 0 to 5 years old. They probably quadruple in size, in mobility, all of those things, right? But there comes a point in life where we go to work and we start paying bills and all of that. And all of a sudden, we're not focused on, clearly, we're not physically growing at that same pace anymore, but growing ourselves from within, growing our minds, continuing to challenge ourselves. And that's what the work you do really is it's sometimes digging up the trauma from our past. Maybe it wasn't trauma, but experience, the past hurts, the past struggles. And sometimes they're hurts and struggles that we placed upon ourselves too. It's not always involving another person, but you help dig those up so that we face them for what they are. And we learn how to move through them to what's supposed to be next. So whatever it is that might be stopping us or holding us back from taking the next step and being everything that we can be, we face that. And that's sometimes where the tears come from, of that's always been my normal. I never realized that's what I was doing. I mean, these are things I've heard women say just this weekend. I don't know what comes next. How do I figure out who I'm supposed to be? How do I get okay with saying no? How do I stop worrying about what everybody else thinks of me? That's when we talked a lot about this weekend. And the truth is, it's by facing those things straight on that we figure out who we are. We remember how strong we are, and we have the ability to stand in front of a mirror. And this is one thing I love. Pearl mentioned it's a PJ retreat. We are literally in lounge clothes or PJs for 5 days. There is no makeup allowed unless you do a photo shoot. You can put on your makeup, get your pictures taken, and take your makeup right back off. But it forces us to look at our outer shells in their most pure form as we do the work to bring our inner selves outward in its most pure form. So you look yourself in the mirror barefaced and maybe bare souled by the time the weekend's over. And you remember who you are. And a lot of women are just starting to build in the direction they need or want to go. And people like me, I'm here for the second year. And while I've been able to contribute with the work I do and work with some of these amazing women outside the retreat from last year, and I know a few I've already talked to about working with this year when we get back home and settled, is taking that next step, right? I get to work with them and do that. I get to show up in what I do for a living, but I also get to participate. And so I'm doing that same work with them. And I've healed and grown through a whole lot of things throughout my life. And yet, I think the thing I've learned most is that it is an ever occurring practice, right? You may face the thing and you may move on and you may find the next step, but some of those struggles or some of those misconceptions about ourselves or beliefs from the past, they never completely go away. They creep up from time to time especially when we're looking at starting something new or making a big move in our lives. Those things creep up again, but that's where we have the opportunity to go back to what we practice here and hopefully continue to practice each day in small ways as we go home to continue that evolution, to continue to overcome those things that try to stop us in our tracks, right? One of the coolest things I think you do at the retreat, I got to personally experience last year. Now, I didn't mean to get emotional, but the last night of the retreat, every woman that's here gets a ticket, a raffle ticket, and then a few extra ones for fun little quiz questions we ask about things from the week. And one person's name is pulled out to have a makeover. So making over her outside after she's just been, like I said, barefaced all weekend, and hair done, cut, colored, possibly, makeup done, a new outfit, and then a photo shoot to just bring out who she is and all the beauty that she holds. And I actually got chosen to go through that last year, and it was an amazing experience. I was so grateful for. And then we did it again this year. And that's one of the most emotional parts of the retreat. But where did that piece come from? Because you're doing that work. Have you done the makeover all 8 years?
All 8 years we've done the makeover. I think it also came back from the idea with Stacy. She's like, you really should like recognize like who in the room, everybody needs a makeover. It's always fun to get the makeover, but like do something to like really empower others to see that, yeah, you've done all this work inside, but now it will shine on the outside. So even if you didn't get chosen, we still want you to see that you can shine when you leave on the outside when you put your own makeup on. And so we just decided one year back home, I had this hairdresser that I had met at an event, and Angela, shout out to Angela. And so we just pick somebody and we do a complete makeover. We do the hair, we do the makeup, and then I usually find outfits throughout the year. I'll grab stuff, kind of like Sarah, our photographer. I have stuff in my closet I bring just for the retreat. And so we tell you, you have to be 100% all in. If you're not all in, then, and you can say no, but understand that you're gonna regret it because they have no clue what's about to happen. And so we pick somebody out of the audience, and they get a complete makeover. 6 o'clock in the morning, they're awake. We have a hairdresser that cuts and maybe color their hair. We do a whole outfit change and everything. And then our amazing photographer, Sarah, shout out to Sarah Cruz, she does a photo shoot for them and she gives them a beautiful photo of them. And so we did that again this year. And so it was really amazing. I think I love everything we do over the weekend, but it's sort of like one of my favorite part because it truly is, look at the transformation that you've done. And so this year, my dear friend Lisa, who I was mentioning earlier, she won, and she just did a beautiful job, and she was she had just said like a couple hours before she got pulled that she was really wanting to get rid of her hair extensions, her 80s hair extensions, I think she called it. So yeah, we do it, and it won't go away because I think it's a really cool thing. So if you're listening, basically it's sort of like the old TV show that will remain nameless. When you're in the audience on the morning show, they would just grab you out of the audience and do a complete makeover. And so that's what we do. And it's one of my favorite parts, and to kind of close out Saturday to prepare for the bounce forward out of the house on Sunday.
Yeah. And I think I loved it so much for myself, or I realized so much in doing it for myself. What I love most about it is all of that stuff is on the surface. And so you've been in your most natural, pure form for 4 or 5 days. And then with just a few little touches to enhance the beauty you already have, you step out in. And the coolest part too is that all of the other ladies, all of the sisters you've made through the weekend are gathered together to have a champagne toast when you come out and they see you. And their reaction to what they see in you, I think, is what really brings the emotion out, because it makes you, it's another level of seeing yourself through somebody else's eyes. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. It brings me to the other thing I want to talk about we do that's really special here is send out a request, and you can send one person's email address, three people's email address. But in preparation for the retreat, Pearl always asks for email addresses of family or friends that she can send some questions to get some information about, to ask them to write you a letter about who they see you as and how they see you show up in the world. And so I'm going to let you explain a little bit about how we kind of go through that process here.
Yeah, so it's interesting too because I'm really funny, as Natalie knows, about I don't want to do the same thing every year, but I have a team of ambassadors, which Natalie's one of our ambassadors, and we did this last year. We sent out the requests to the emails you gave us. We asked them to answer some questions, things like how are you showing up for yourself, how are you doing with self care, and then we asked them to like leave the person a special message for the attendee that's coming in. So we take these letters and we put them on some beautiful paper. We just create a really pretty scene around the paper. We have dinner in the evening. So we had a sunset dinner on Saturday evening with your letter sitting in front of you. And then you get to take that letter and you kind of go off in your own little space and you read the letter. Some people cry, some people laugh. I think I kind of joke and said my husband wrote it like a business letter to me this year. But there's just it's just a way for you to see, for the ladies to see that, again, like we said earlier in the show, that your family's watching you. They see what you're doing. And, I think one of the ladies, her letter was like pushing you, stop worrying about us. We're good. Keep taking care of you, putting yourself first. And it's a beautiful scene. So last year when we did it, I was like, okay, ladies, what are we going to do this year? And they're like, what do you mean we're going to do? We're still doing the letters. So it's become part of the retreat, just like the transformation. It's become part of the retreat, and it's a beautiful thing. And I mean, I know Natalie, you were there last year. I think it
Yeah.
was different for you again this year. So it won't go away. So I always worry that, well, if you came last year, are you going to expect it? And so what if you expect is what my team has taught me. That's for me, that's one big thing too about the retreat is that I trust my tribe and trust my team of ambassadors. And if they say don't change anything, then I don't. And I mean, this year's retreat showed it a lot. We kept a lot of things, we changed a lot of things, and it's been a huge blessing. And so I loved watching the reaction from everybody when they got the letters.
Yeah. And again, it's just another opportunity to see yourself through somebody else's eyes. And I think last year and this year both, I chuckled at some things and I thought, oh yeah, that's right. I probably do need to put some focus there. And then those special messages they leave is the moment you get to see yourself through their eyes. And let's be honest, I think every human being out there sees themselves through a filtered lens that they've created. And especially women, we don't step outside that very easily. We've created this idea of who we are and we stay in there, and we may try to poke little holes in it here and there, but something's always pulling us back. And the other thing is we always think we could be doing more. And when you have your loved ones tell you, um, keep focusing on you, keep chasing that dream. I've seen you grow so much this year. It's been beautiful to watch. Keep going. And for me, the one piece I will share, my son was one of the ones who wrote a letter for me this year. And in the special message, he just said, Mama, you're the best woman that I know. And so to have those friends, those family members, your children tell you when there's so many times you feel like you just can't get it all done, or you're not showing up as well as you could, or you should be doing more, to have that acknowledgement of not only are you doing enough, you're impressing the hell out of the people that care about you most. And there always is a little push in there of, I had two friends last year who told me, I want to see Natalie spend more time on her because I am busy building a business and I moved my parents in with me 2 years ago. And so that's a balance I feel like I'm always juggling and maybe not doing the best at. But then I got to come back this year and get letters of people who, yeah, are telling me to still take time for myself, but also telling me that they see me doing the things I feel like I'm not doing very good at. And I'm like, holy crap, maybe I need to quit putting so much pressure on myself and just recognize and enjoy the moment that I'm in. And that, I think that's what it is for each and every one of us.
Yeah, I agree. And that's really what it's meant to be, is like, look at the letter and read the message, because as we said earlier, people are watching you, not just your family, but people around you. And so show up for yourself, because when you do that, then you're going to make a bigger impact in the world, not just with your family, but even your clients. You're going to show up differently for your clients when you can put a priority on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And every single one of us here, we have a different kind of challenge and a different area we need to focus, whether it was even in the finance portion, my breakout session, the women's health focus section of what we talk about.
Trisha's section.
Yeah, I try to refer. Yeah, I said women's health. That was a lame reference, but
sexual intimacy. I mean,
yeah.
And I remember when I was telling the attendees, when I first started having Trish come, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how people are going to accept this, but it is such a need that we don't talk about. So,
Mhm.
and even like you said in finance, I think you're the one who said these are two areas that women are afraid to talk about: finance and sex. And
Yep.
so to have both of those at the retreat, and then you add on top of that putting yourself first, they all intertwine together. It just makes a perfect match together.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pearl, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with me today. And I appreciate being to have this real time. We have one last night in the house, but we've already cleaned up. This night is our night to wind down and just prepare ourselves to step back as fully as we can into the lives we left behind for a few days, with those fires that we've lit, to do daily practices that will keep us growing. And so it's really real time here. We're winding down this year's retreat and doing this recording. Is there anything else you want to share about this weekend, the work that you do? And please also, where women can find you and follow along, get connected with the Shiro League.
I would just say, if you are listening to us and any of this resonates with you, just know, one, you're not alone. You're not the only female or woman in the world that feels like, I don't feel like I'm being heard, or I take care of everybody else. being a people pleasing addict myself, recovering in that, it sometimes you feel alone, and you're not alone. And that's really what that part of the retreat is about as well. And if you want to, reach out to me, feel free to join, message me at hello@wsliving.com. I have to just say, send me a message, hello@wsliving.com. But if you want to know about the retreats, you want to come next year, Natalie's going to be speaking again, and just go. We're going to have a fun summit beforehand next year, because we're actually going back home and going back to Tampa with the retreat, as we lead up into our 9th year. But you can just go to wslivingretreats.com. That's wslivingretreats.com. And if you go before October 15th, you're going to get this year's price. So thanks so much for having me, Natalie.
Yeah, absolutely, Pearl. I appreciate you. And I'll definitely put where you can follow Pearl and how you can reach out to her in the show notes of the podcast. So look for that. And look, we got to get back to it, because let me tell you guys what, for the last 4 nights, I've been in a room with 3 other ambassadors. And every morning, Pearl's like, I could hear you guys laughing through the wall, because she's in the room next to us. It's like being at summer camp again in 6th grade with my best friends. We literally laugh ourselves to sleep every single night. So I've got one more night of this I get to soak up. So we're going to wrap the show here, but thank you again, Pearl. I look forward to continue working with you and growing because of the work that you do.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you all for tuning in, listening to this episode this week. Hopefully I'm continuing to share information that will educate you, that will help you to grow, and most of all, create financial freedom for you and your loved ones. So until next week, take care and stay safe.